What is up, everyone? Welcome to another episode of F1 Fantasy Pole Position. It is Tuesday, November 11th. My name is Ewan, and on today's episode, I'm going to give you my team selection ahead of the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Happy Veterans Day, happy Remembrance Day if you are anywhere around the world. Hopefully everyone is doing well and we are all recovering from the Brazilian Grand Prix. Quick promo off the top is if you're watching my channel for the first time, don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel and like the video. We are trying to get to 150 likes on every video from now until the end of the season, and we are closing in on 4,000 subscribers, which is mind-blowing for me. But yes, Las Vegas, I've changed it up a little bit. The background's a little bit different, so hopefully we can have some fun in this episode. And we have some slightly breaking news to go over in today's episode. So hopefully you guys stick around. Timestamps are in the description below as per usual, but let's just get right into it. Starting off with a quick race preview here on the Las Vegas Strip Circuit. 17 corners, 50 laps, 2 DRS zones. It's first for overtakes over the last 2 seasons and only has had 3 DNFs in its short 2-year history. So lots of points on offer in F1 Fantasy. And in 2024, Russell was first, Lewis Hamilton was second, and Carlos Sainz was third, as Mercedes just kind of stormed the weekend. And I am still kicking myself for not taking the punt on Mercedes that weekend. They pretty much dominated FP1, FP2, and FP3, and for some reason we still did not go with it. So maybe we will learn our lesson this year in F1 Fantasy. I hope I do, at least, because I know there were some people that went there and they had a huge kind of climb up the rankings as the season entered its final 3 races. Going over to the Pirelli preview here. So 3 races to go. It's the C3, the C4, the C5, just like last season. Qatar and Abu Dhabi, it all looks very similar from now on. I've actually chopped off the C6 because we're not going to see that again in the 2025 season. I wonder if we'll see it at all in the 2026 season. I guess the teams will get together after that. But yeah, quick touch on Brazil it was okay. Like, had some good calls, had some bad calls. Gabi Borletto, I thought I'd be levitating up the rankings, but unfortunately he kind of sunk me about 500 places. So not so good for my squad, but overall it wasn't too bad. Still in the top 3K with 3 races to go. So I don't know if the push for 1K is still going to be around, but we're still going to try. So yeah, 4,629 points going into the Las Vegas Grand Prix as we go over to the previous results. So I didn't want to, we're still like 2 weeks out from the race, or like a week and a bit out from the race. So I didn't want to go over the weather. I'll go over that in my transfer targets that will come out next Monday. But since this race is one of the newer ones on the F1 calendar, just wanted to look back at the 2023 and the 2024 top 10 results. So as you can see here, in 2023, it was Verstappen, Leclerc, Perez, Ocon, Stroll, Sainz, Hamilton, Russell, Alonso, Piastri. So where Mercedes did thrive in 2024, they didn't have a great 2023 at this track, but we'll see how that kind of builds into 2025. Verstappen on top, 44 points, Leclerc 41. We had Piastri down there in 10th on 39 points. I remember he took like a late pit stop and put on the softs or something and kind of flew back through the field and racked up a bunch of overtakes. So that was very nice for our F1 Fantasy squads a couple of seasons ago. And then in 2024, like I was saying, it was a phenomenal weekend for Mercedes. Lewis Hamilton actually outscored George Russell in F1 Fantasy. He picked up, I think, fastest lap or driver of the day, one of the two. And it was all hunky-dory if you went with Mercedes that weekend. Sainz in 3rd, Leclerc 4th, Verstappen 5th. He claimed the 4th of his 4 World Drivers' Championships at this race last season. Norris 6th, Piastri 7th. So as you can see here, like, it hasn't been the happiest kind of hunting ground for McLaren. So in 2023, Norris DNF'd in the first part of the race, Piastri finishing 10th, and then 6th and 7th last year. So it could be a good opportunity for us to jump off of McLaren and kind of have like a Houdini vanishing act here in F1 Fantasy from our squads. However, we do have to think about Qatar in the following race. So we'll see how it all goes. Hülkenberg, Tsunoda, Perez also rounding out the top 10 there. But just thought it was interesting to look at the previous results in the top 10 for F1 Fantasy. And now let's get into some slightly breaking news. So right off the bat, I just want to give a huge like shout out to f1fantasytools.com. They are the best resource in F1 fantasy. And although I do promo them a lot, I really should promo them again. So if you use promo code UN50, you'll get 50% off your first month with their premium product, and you'll have that for the final 3 races of the season. But they kind of have noticed that F1, the official game, has been not doing so great. It's kind of causing a illusion in our F1 fantasy teams because the scoring is off. So I'm going to go through this thread really quickly. Here we go again. There are multiple errors in the official F1 fantasy points for the Brazil Grand Prix. Expect points and rankings to change. A full breakdown below. The most obvious but relatively insignificant one. Sauber managed a pit stop of 2.42 seconds, worth 5 points, but got 0 points instead. But the main issues are once again with the overtakes. We manually checked every driver that got 10 plus official overtakes, current to manual. So Behrman went from 18 to 10, Tsunoda 13 to 4, Verstappen 12 to 12, Gasly 11 to 4, Lawson 11 to 2, and Albon 10 to 8. Check out the video below to quickly validate for yourself, which is from F1 Visualized with therace.com. The idea that Tsunoda, who got an abysmal P17 to P17 race, had more overtakes than Verstappen, who went from P19 to P3, is just laughable. It makes it painfully clear that there are still no checks, not even a simple visual check before finalizing the results. This is also not the first time this has happened. It happened in Mexico 2024 and Silverstone 2025, and it probably won't be the last. Maybe it's time we stop trying to replicate their algorithm and start focusing on accuracy and transparency ourselves. So this is not good for the game, for us as managers, for myself as a content creator, that like I have to make a team selection video right now for you guys, and everything is red flag, loosey-goosey math, because it could change as soon as I publish this. So I just wanted to get that off the top, that it's not good. It's not good. F1 will hopefully fix this before the Las Vegas Grand Prix. Hopefully they realize it, but just in general, it is very, very frustrating that they are doing this to us, and like I'm kind of at a loss. We're a couple of days after the Brazilian Grand Prix, so I really hope they get this fixed, but I want you guys to know that everything I talk about from now until the end of the episode is going to go off of what is official on F1Fantasy.com right now, not F1 Fantasy Tools, although I will be using their website, but they are going with what that scoring is, and hopefully the game catches it. So I just wanted to go over this because I know it's kind of coming up in F1 Fantasy circles, and I don't want to like just go past it or whatever. So go check out F1 Fantasy Tools, the whole thread. You can kind of look at it, all the comments and stuff like that. And yeah, we will go from there. But hopefully this gets fixed before the Las Vegas Grand Prix. But it is a little bit concerning that we're still going through this in 2025. It's like they've kind of broken our hearts a little bit. But yes, training season's over in F1.com, and they need to get it together because the game is growing and we need this stuff to kind of get kicked out of our game so we can talk about it reliably. All right, but over to happier things now. I'm going to kiss and make up with the game. You know, one kiss it's all it takes. So we'll just see what this happens for the rest of the episode here. But the 5 drivers that need to score 10 or less points in F1 Fantasy this week at the Las Vegas Grand Prix are Ollie Behrman, Pierre Gasly, Esteban Ocon, Kimi Antonelli, and Carlos Sainz. And I have done my classic loosey-goosey red flag math, and this is based off of, this is like extra, the looseyest of goosey math this week, as we just went over with the f1fantasytools.com thread. So if you're watching this after a few days, check out my X account, check out TikTok at F1FantasyUN, and I will let you guys know if this stuff gets sorted because, like, once again, shout out to F1 Fantasy Tools for finding this. So Behrman over the last 3 races, 28.7 points per race. He is, if you have him in your squad, I think he is set and forget for the rest of the season. I don't think you have to worry about him, barring like a huge DNF in Vegas or like penalty points, I guess, is also slightly hanging over Ollie Behrman's head, but don't worry about him too much. He should rise, and he is in bang up form. I actually just made a TikTok or a YouTube short about him earlier today, so you can go check that out as well. Pierre Gasly, I've got him in my squad, feeling pretty good. -17 for a good price rise, -13 for a great price rise in Vegas. It's kind of crazy to think that probably when we head in Qatar, we'll be able to sell Pierre Gasly for a 4.5 million Fernando Alonso and make money off of that, which I did not think that was going to happen a couple of races ago. Esteban Ocon here, -7 for a good price rise, -1 for a great price rise. He's averaging 6 points per race over the last 3, so maybe not as strong of a hold as the other 5 on this chart right here. Kimi Antonelli, about to get into a little bit more detail here, but -14 for a good price rise, 1 point for a great price rise, and with how Mercedes has looked at this track in 2024, should be a very strong contender for teams with a lower cost cap in F1 Fantasy. And Carlos Sainz averaging 6.3 points per race over the last 3 races. -4 for a good price rise, 2 points for a great price rise. Sainz is probably the one we need to worry about the most when it comes to these finalized scores that we're hopefully going to get from F1.com eventually, because he was right on kind of the fringes of a price rise or a price fall. So we'll certainly need to look at that a little bit. But going over to Kimi Antonelli, and this has come up in a lot of spots, but I kind of just wanted to put it into context for F1 fantasy purposes. So he's not so homesick. These are his location splits in the 2025 F1 fantasy season and his rookie season. So in Europe and not in Europe. And just to clarify, for the sake of argument, I put Azerbaijan in the not Europe category. It's transcontinental. I don't want to start any geopolitical stuff, but I just put it in the not Europe. So let me know in the comments if that was wrong, but that is just what the stats are going to say on this table. So in Europe, Kimi Antonelli scored -3.2 points per race, which was dead last in F1 Fantasy. Points per million, obviously dead last as well. Quali average 11.2 was 9th. Race average 16.6 was dead last as well. And his best result was 21 points at the Belgian Grand Prix, a sprint race weekend as well. So not all that great. However, when Kimi Antonelli is not in Europe, he turns into a superhuman. 22.3 points per race, which is 5th on the grid, 1.3 points per million, which is 2nd, 5.9 quali average, 6th, 6.3 race average, which is 5th, and his best result came this last weekend in Brazil with 40 points. And I don't know what this is. It seems like a coincidence. It's a little bit weird. But yeah, it's kind of crazy. And if you had Kimi Antonelli in your Brazilian Grand Prix, you are going to dance the night away because you will have him in Las Vegas as well, I'm assuming, and he will do quite well. I'm thinking it's this Mercedes car. So not bad overall. Just wanted to, I know some other podcasts and some other places have come up with this already, but I just wanted to put it in for F1 fantasy like context that like it really is crazy. He's scoring almost 26 more points in outside of Europe than he is in Europe. So I don't know what this means, but Kimi Antonelli is definitely a star on the rise right now in F1 Fantasy. He should be very popular at the beginning of the 2026 season, like kind of depending on his price. So we will look out for that. Going over to the two-piece combo, which is kind of like talking about the A-tier driver combos and how we are looking heading into the final 3 races of the F1 Fantasy 2025 season. So I've got on the screen here, if you're listening on the podcast side, I would highly recommend flipping over to the YouTube channel, F1 Fantasy Pole Position, to look at all this. There are 7 driver combinations I've got on the screen right now. Norris, Verstappen, Norris, Piastri, Verstappen, Piastri, Norris, Russell, Verstappen, Russell, Norris, Antonelli, and Verstappen, Antonelli. I've got the cost, the points per race over the last 5, and the points per million over the last 5. And right off the bat, I can tell you that we can eliminate 2 of these teams, Norris and Piastri and Verstappen and Piastri, because they are not getting it done. They are bottom in points per race. They are bottom in points per million. So we could say bye-bye to any tier A combo that has Oscar Piastri right now. Maybe we can bring him back in for Qatar, but the Australian is unfortunately having a very, very rough ending to his kind of first championship battle. So Piastri, we're going to eliminate you from this conversation right now. Where it gets interesting is right now I have the Norris-Russell pairing. So they cost 54 million together. They're scoring 54.8 points per race over the last 5, and 1.01 points per million is their bang for their buck. And that's actually the worst out of these other 5 teams. So First up is Verstappen plus Antonelli. That's 1.42 points per million. Then it's Verstappen plus Russell, which is 1.32 points per million. And third is Norris and Verstappen, which is 1.13 points per million. Then if you go to the points per race over the last 5, Verstappen plus Russell, 70.2 points per race. Then it's Norris plus Verstappen, 67.8 points per race. And then third is Verstappen plus Antonelli, 65.8. So Norris and Verstappen, Verstappen and Russell, and Verstappen and Antonelli are the 3 top teams out of these 7 kind of variations that I've got in the A tier. I'm not going to include Ferrari. It's just too late in the day, and I don't have that much space on the graphic to kind of make it all come together. So that is kind of interesting. It's something that we need to think about heading into the final 3 races. Like, how do we want to make these teams? I mean, Norris and Verstappen, that's 60 million. That's a lot of money. So you got a 7 million saving if you go Verstappen plus Russell. And I gotta admit, that is on my mind in F1 fantasy. Verstappen plus Antonelli, 46.4 million. So that's another 7 or 6.6 million saved on the Verstappen and Russell combo, which is very nice. It boosts up their points per million, like about 5 points less per race than the Verstappen-Russell pairing. But hard to argue with how Antonelli's doing right now. We'll see what it looks like in Vegas. The problem is Antonelli is like at such a weird price point right now. What is he, like 16.3 million or 16.9 million? And what do you do with the rest of that money? You're not like, all the B tier assets are not really boosting it up. Like, you could go to Norris, but then like Verstappen is scoring more F1 fantasy points right now. So it's the Norris Antonelli, Verstappen Antonelli combos are almost just limited to the teams with a lower budget. It's like a mental thing where you want to use all of your budget in F1 fantasy as efficiently as possible. So the right move may be to leave about, what would that be, like 8 million on the table between Verstappen and Russell, or Antonelli and Russell. It would just be so strange to do it as we head into the final 3 races. But let me know what you think. What is your favorite driver combo with all these stats on here? It's a little stat heavy, I understand that, but like, out of these 7 combinations that I've got going on here, which is your favorite heading into the Las Vegas Grand Prix? And I'm going to show you my favorite right now with my team selection. All right, so here we are, the T1 squad. That's the top 3K in the world right now. I mean, for now, I guess we'll see what happens after this whole finalized score thing going on. But I've got Norris, Russell, Gabby Bortoleto, Carlos Sainz, Pierre Gasly, McLaren, and Mercedes. And as we saw, Gabby Bortoleto was not on that budget builder. He had an awful weekend in Brazil. Kind of feel bad for the guy. Negative 24 points in F1 fantasy. Just obviously was pushing for the home crowd. First time a Brazilian had been racing in Brazil since 2017, I believe. And it kind of just looked like it got to him a little bit. It wasn't even like a wet weekend. So he didn't really have like a wet weather bad race or whatever. He just had the crash in the sprint race, and that knocked him out of quali. And then you could just see that he was pushing. Probably didn't need to be kind of messing around with Lance Stroll there on the first lap. Maybe just like a more patient approach. But hopefully that will get out of his system as we move further and further into Gabby Bortoleto's career, which will hopefully be a long one in F1. So, but saying that, he's probably going to get chopped for me this week in F1 Fantasy. I've only got 2 free transfers, so I am wondering what to do. There's kind of an easy route where I can just go Lando Norris to Max Verstappen if McLaren is not looking all that well, and then Gabby Bortoleto to Ollie Behrman. That's probably quite easy to do. There is another world where I can take a 10-point hit. I could bring in like a Red Bull or a Ferrari. I really don't want to bring a Ferrari, but Red Bull could come in here. I'd have 6.2 million in savings. Then we're getting into very strange territory where, like, we could be looking at a negative 40 kind of area. And then I don't think anyone is anyone 4.7? So Franco Colapinto is 4.5 million. So this would be a what? 1, 2, 3, 4. This would be a negative 20 It would be double Red Bull, triple McLaren, double Alpine, and I think I would be running for the absolute hills if I actually end up on this at Saturday morning at whatever o'clock. But it is a possibility. That's almost wish I'd saved my autopilot chip now, huh? So Verstappen, Russell, Antonelli. It is doable with my budget at 138.2 million. If you have 3 free transfers and this is only a -10, that's slightly interesting to me, but -20, I'd have like Mercedes and Red Bull would have to be so far ahead of McLaren and Ferrari that like it would be like indisputable that this is the kind of best lineup, and it would be a redemption for my total bottling of Mercedes last year. It'd have me in love again with the silver arrows, so that would be quite nice, but I'd have to be a really, really brave F1 fantasy manager to go with something like this. So I think the simpler moves for me, if I'm putting my safety hat back on and kind of becoming cautious content creator kind of F1 fantasy manager, which I do lean into a little bit, maybe too much sometimes, I will admit that. But Max Verstappen in keep Mercedes, keep McLaren, and then just get rid of Gabby Bortz and take the free kind of budget rise. If we go over here to the budget builder, I could look at an Ocon. I can't get to an Antonelli, but if I was going to go with Ocon, then I would just go with Behrman, right? Because same car, Behrman's driving a little bit better. Those upgrades, updates that Haas brought for the Coda Grand Prix are clearly doing something to the car. That's the F1 Fantasy Tools thread there. And this would be like use both my free transfers, and it still gives me an out to get back to Lando Norris in Qatar, which is quite nice. Right now, Max Verstappen is only 1 million cheaper than Lando Norris. And if for some reason Lando Norris doesn't go up 0.3 and Max Verstappen does, I would be in range to just do like a straight swap of Verstappen to Lando next week, which would be ideal because it'd only be one free transfer, but rather than like breaking up the rest of my team. But Mercedes could be bad in Qatar as well. So I need to I'd love to roll a transfer. I just don't think that's a possibility. I kind of went all in at Brazil with my 3 big transfers to bring in those 3 different tier A assets. And that's kind of where my brain is at. But for now, I think if I had to lock in right now, Tuesday, November 11th at like 4 p.m. in the afternoon, it would be Verstappen and Behrman in for Bortoleto and Lando Norris. I have to see something from McLaren to kind of hold them. Keeping McLaren as the constructor, because I have Mercedes, which I think has a really good upside. They're obviously the best bang for your buck constructor right now, is nice. And I'd probably just have to like take a couple of punches with McLaren this weekend and then bring them back in or keep them for Qatar. With that being said, if there is some really good data saying that Red Bull and Mercedes are better with 3 races to go, if you think that there's going to be a greater than a 10-point difference between Red Bull and McLaren, I would take that hit and just take it again next week because McLaren will probably make it back up. That's what prevented me from going from Gabby Bortoleto to Ollie Behrman on the deadline stream on Saturday. I was like, I don't know if there's going to be a 10-point difference there. So maybe I'll just save my 10 points. And it ended up being like a 50-point swing. So once again, maybe just being a little bit too cautious. But, I don't know. I think this is where I would probably end up in F1 Fantasy. Let me know your lineup constructions or lineup decisions in the comments below. Hit me up on X at F1 Fantasy UN or TikTok at F1 Fantasy UN as well. So that'll do it for today's episode ahead of the Las Vegas Grand Prix. That was my team selection video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I got Lauren Meckies, I got Toto Wolff here on my left and my right. I switched it up a little bit. People were saying that I haven't switched it up for a while, so I did something different. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the YouTube channel if you are not already subscribed. And you can sign up for my Patreon or my YouTube membership program as the season winds down. Got a couple of people in there now getting very good chats and good good ideas out of them, and overall just lining up some content for 2026, along with my power rankings every month for the rest of the season, and probably just the rest of the year. I'll just keep doing that. But hopefully you guys are doing well. I'll be back on Monday with a transfer targets episode, and then we'll do Q&A stream. Final thoughts episode on Friday morning, and then yes, we will be back for a deadline stream despite the absurd time that the deadline is in. So crossing my fingers that all of us European F1 fantasy managers can wake up for that. But hopefully you guys are doing well. Hopefully you've recovered from Brazil, or you're done celebrating or commiserating, whatever it was. And once again, thanks for listening, thanks for watching, and I will talk to you next time.